He was a decorated soldier, fresh from serving his country, stepping into an airport like any other traveler. But within minutes, his world turned upside down. To the officers who stopped him, his uniform didn't matter, his service didn't matter. All they saw was the color of his skin. In a place meant for safety and freedom, he was treated like a criminal. What they didn't know was who he truly was, and the shocking truth they were about to uncover. For Captain Marcus Reed, airports had always been a familiar place. Years of service meant countless flights, deployments, homecomings, missions that took him across the world. But this trip was different. This time, he wasn't in combat gear or marching alongside his unit. He was just a man coming home, dressed neatly, carrying nothing more than a small duffel bag and the quiet pride of having served his country. Marcus was the kind of soldier everyone respected, known for his discipline, his calm under pressure, and his loyalty to the men who served beside him. He carried himself with quiet strength. To most strangers, though, he looked like just another traveler, tall, broad-shouldered, moving through the terminal with a steady pace. Still, behind that composed exterior was a heart eager to reunite with family. His mother had been waiting for weeks to see him. His little brother looked up to him like a hero, and his community often spoke his name with admiration. Marcus embodied sacrifice and service, qualities that should have earned him honor wherever he went. But the truth is, not everyone saw him that way. To some, his skin color spoke louder than his medals. To some, his quiet presence in an airport wasn't a symbol of safety, but a shadow of suspicion. And in just a few short moments, Marcus would discover that the very country he risked his life to protect was not yet ready to protect him. Marcus walked with quiet confidence through the terminal, the weight of his duffel steady on his shoulder. But the calmness of his journey cracked the moment two uniformed officers stepped into his path. Their eyes narrowed, their tone sharp, not the kind of welcome one expects after serving overseas. "Random security check," they said. But Marcus knew better. Around him, dozens of passengers moved freely, no questions asked. Yet here he was, singled out. The officers' stares weren't casual. They were probing, searching, almost daring him to slip. They demanded his ID, his boarding pass, his reasons for being there. Marcus complied, his voice steady, his movements careful. Years of discipline had taught him patience, but as their questioning grew sharper, more accusatory, he felt a knot tighten in his chest. Why did every answer seem to fuel their suspicion rather than ease it? People around them slowed their steps, stealing glances. A mother pulled her child closer. A businessman looked away, pretending not to see. The silence of the crowd screamed louder than words: judgment, fear, and indifference. The officers pressed harder. They accused him of being nervous, of acting suspicious. One of them reached for his bag, tugging it away with force as if expecting to find something hidden. The duffel, once filled with pride of service, now felt like evidence against him. Marcus tried to explain. He was a soldier, returning home, carrying nothing more than clothes and a few mementos from overseas. But his words were drowned out by commands barked louder and louder. Before he realized it, his wrists were pulled behind his back, cold metal snapping shut around them. The sting of the cuffs wasn't just physical, it was humiliation. The airport buzzed with whispers now. Some pulled out phones to record. Others watched with wide, uneasy eyes. Yet no one stepped forward. Marcus, a man who had once stood in foreign lands defending strangers, now stood utterly alone in his own country. Dragged toward a holding area, his heart pounded. His uniform, his service, his sacrifice, all erased in the eyes of men who refused to see past his skin. Each step felt heavier, not from the cuffs, but from the crushing weight of injustice. And as he was shoved into a chair under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, Marcus couldn't help but wonder, how far would they go? How much more would they strip away before they realized the truth of who he was? The answer was coming, but not yet. First, he would endure the storm, unaware that the moment of revelation was closer than anyone watching could imagine. The holding room was silent except for the ticking of a wall clock and the shallow sound of Marcus's own breathing. His hands throbbed from the cuffs, his shoulders stiff from being shoved into the chair. He had faced enemy fire overseas, yet nothing felt as threatening as the cold, unyielding eyes staring at him now. The officers circled like predators, tossing accusations without proof. Terrorist, smuggler, criminal. Each word struck harder than the last. Each assumption carved from nothing but skin. Marcus tried to steady his voice, to remind them who he was, what he had sacrificed. But the more he spoke, the less human they seemed to see him. Then it happened. One officer slammed his duffel onto the table, unzipping it with a violent jerk. Inside lay his military jacket, neatly folded, the patches insignia unmistakable. A silence swept the room, but instead of respect, suspicion sharpened. One muttered, "Stolen." Another sneered, "Where'd you get this?" The truth, his truth, sat right in front of them, and still they refused to believe. Marcus's chest tightened. Wasn't the uniform proof enough? Wasn't the blood he shed for his country worth more than their doubt? The humiliation burned deeper than the cuffs. To fight for freedom abroad, only to be chained at home. To be a hero in combat, but a suspect in an airport. The walls seemed to close in, the weight of centuries pressing down on this single moment. And then, just as the air felt too heavy to breathe, just as the injustice reached its breaking point, the door swung open. A new figure stepped in, holding the file that would change everything. But for Marcus, the question remained. Would the truth set him free, or would it come too late? The door creaked open and the air shifted. A senior official stepped in, file in hand, his voice cutting through the tension. He didn't need to look twice at the documents. Marcus Reed wasn't just any traveler. He was a decorated captain, a man who had earned medals for bravery, a soldier who had risked everything for the very freedoms his country claimed to protect. The cuffs came off. The accusations dissolved into awkward silence. The officers muttered half-hearted apologies, but the damage was already done. No apology could erase the sting of being doubted, degraded, and dehumanized in front of strangers. No gesture could take back the fact that his skin had spoken louder to them than his service ever could. Marcus left the airport that day, but he carried something heavier than his duffel. He carried the truth of what it meant to live in a nation that salutes you in uniform, yet suspects you in plain clothes. The humiliation was personal, but the injustice was universal. His story was not just his own. It was a mirror held up to the reality faced by countless others every single day. And that's the part too many choose to ignore. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of something deeper, something ingrained, something that won't vanish with one man's recognition. Marcus's silence in that moment spoke louder than any uniform could, a silence filled with exhaustion, anger, and a question that still echoes today. How many more will it take? How many more veterans, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters must be stripped of dignity before the truth becomes undeniable? Because Marcus survived that day. But survival should never be the measure of justice.